You think dogs ever wonder why humans are always tying ropes around their neck and watching them shit?
If a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around, does it really feel heard?
I've only lied to the cops one time, and it was an accident. It wasn't that I was lying. I just could have been more clear. When they had me surrounded and they were screaming, "Calm down, calm down, calm down," and then the one asked me if I was on any medication, and I said no. That wasn't entirely true. What I should have said was that I wasn't on my medication. I got a prescription for a fungus cream for this fungus that I have on my skin. And ever since I've picked it up from the pharmacy, like every 3 days, I get a text message that says my next prescription is ready. It's like, how much of this stuff do they think I eat every day?
The other night I ate at a family-style restaurant. It was very authentic. They gave me something I didn't order and I didn't want, and then they wouldn't let me leave until I cleaned my plate. Whenever I'm feeling down, sad, I eat a fortune cookie, because even if it says you're gonna die, it's like, well, not before dessert.
If parenting is so hard, how come you can get a teenager to fill in for you?
It's been a few years since my divorce was finalized, so I feel like I can tell people this. I've never told anybody this before, but my son, I wasn't 100% sure that he was my biological son until about his 10th birthday. And what convinced me was I called him up and I was like, "Hey buddy, happy birthday. Did your mom throw you a party?" And he said, yeah, she threw me a party. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool, man. How was it?" And he says, "I didn't go."
I'm gonna open a restaurant, call it Divorcees, and everybody's gonna get their own sink to stand in front of while they eat leftovers by themselves.
You know what the best part about abandonment issues is? No fear of commitment.
I moved recently to a new apartment, and my father came by to check it out. And after he looked around, he said, "Well, I can help you pay for a welcome mat if you want to put that out front." But I declined, Being so new to the building and the neighborhood, I didn't really want to give people the wrong idea. I live in an apartment building, so there's a lot of people around. And sometimes I can't tell if my neighbor is cooking dinner or I've forgotten to flush my toilet for like a month. Don't you hate it when the only flight you can get is a red eye and you're starving and everything's closed and you end up having to eat your last six-pack of edible underpants? You know what I hate about black people? Nothing. I just sort of wanted to make all the white people nervous. As a white person, specifically a white man, I try really hard not to be racist. But if I'm being honest, earlier today, I accidentally slipped up and I said gracias to a Filipino dude.
Boyfriends are like lottery tickets, because the one you've got is probably a loser.
For this joke, I'm gonna need you to pretend that I have a girlfriend, and that I've had this girlfriend for about 8 years now. And the other day, this girlfriend that we're both pretending that I've had for 8 years, she tells me that I've had yellow teeth for as long as she's known me. I mean, I was embarrassed. I didn't know. You see, I'm colorblind. All this time, here's me thinking they were green.
At a certain point, you've been single so long that if someone asks you if you're seeing anyone, you just assume they mean therapist. How come when 4 out of 5 doctors recommend something, you assume the 5th one is wrong, but when 4 out of 5 women reject you, you think the 5th is the one?
I find it baffling that there are still people out there that think homosexuality or whatever your sexuality is a choice. I mean, it seems pretty obvious to me that if sexual orientation was a choice, everyone would be bisexual. Why are you going to rule out 50% of your blowjob chances just because? I got back into the dating game after a long time not being in the dating game, and I'm older now, so I decided to hire a dating coach to help me further down the learning curve, or quicker down the learning curve, And the dating coach was very honest with me. She was very honest. She said, guys who look like you either need to be rich or maybe develop a sense of humor. And I was like, that's good advice. So whenever I go on a date, I usually open with, "Hey, do you want to hear something funny?" And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, guess how much money I have in the bank? I have a complicated relationship with the murder rate. I know I'm supposed to be happy when it goes down, but I also get nervous that they might end up having to cancel Dateline. I was squeezing a lemon into my water the other day, and 14 seeds came out. 14. That seems a little desperate, even for a lemon. I was dating a woman that I really liked. And out of nowhere, she just breaks up with me and she says that it's not me, it's just that she's into older men. I said, baby, I can change. I just need some time. The best part about being bald is that you never have to worry about whether or not your hair looks good, because you know that it doesn't. My parents have always been very supportive. They made sure that I knew that when I grew up I could be anything that they wanted me to be. Why did the chicken cross the road? Because he eats in one room and shits in another, and there weren't no goddamn road in between when he built the fucking place. I was at a job interview, and one of the questions they asked me was if I had any experience managing people. And I said, oh, of course, yeah, I've always had at least 2 bosses. I don't know a whole lot about fashion, but I do know this. There's a direct correlation between whether or not I'm going to get along with somebody and the number of zippers they have on their jeans.
When you're 12 and you see these commercials about soap scum, you're like, who cares? But I'm telling you, man, when you're 39 and you pull your plate out of the dishwasher and you're like, gross, I can't eat off this. There's some sort of, what is that, scum? Soap? Oh. Mackenzie Bezos is a saint. A saint. When her little googly-eyed bald boyfriend came to her and said, you know what, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to sell books out of our garage on, wait for it, this thing you've never heard of before, the internet. And not only did she stay with him, she married him. You know why the rest of us aren't worth $187 billion? It's not because Jeff Bezos is some kind of genius. It's because when we went to our girlfriend and we said, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to sell books out of our garage on the internet, she looked back at us and she said, if you don't go to work tomorrow, this is over, you fucking idiot. All right, here's how it works. You got the politician who thinks he's better than the investment banker, who thinks he's better than the lawyer, who thinks he's better than the businessman, who thinks he's better than the working man, who knows he's better than all of those motherfuckers combined. Make America great again, build back better. The economy is so good, I've got 2 jobs. A homeless man came up to me, and he had no teeth. And he asked me for some change, and I felt bad, and I almost gave him some, but you know he's just going to spend that shit on candy. I was reading in the news recently where there are these really, really scared-sounding people, and they just really need all these guns to protect their homes and their family. And I felt really bad that they live in such dangerous places, man. They should move to my neighborhood. It's so safe, people are just sleeping in the street. If I were homeless, I would definitely panhandle for money. But I wouldn't just beg. I'd get a boombox, and I'd blast really, 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 really shitty music really, really loud. And my sign would read, need money for headphones. I saw a mom and her young son on the street, and they were talking to a homeless man, and the little boy was tugging on his mother's sleeve, just agonizing, right? Like, why can't he just come and live with us? And before the lady could say anything, the homeless dude was like, I already fucking told you, kid, I'm allergic to cats. You think spiders location scout? I don't know. There's a couple spiders hanging out. One was like, you know, Bill, I've been hanging out behind the Safeway by the dumpsters. A lot of bugs. Thinking about putting up a web. Their spider's like, well, you could, Bob, but you know, 9 out of 10 webs fail in the first year. If you're smart, which you do, if you bury yourself in like a dog or maybe a human skull, all you can eat, free travel. I don't know how long it took human beings to figure out, you know, like which plants were edible and which ones weren't. Like, you know, if you're one of the first people, all you really know is that you're hungry, right? But you don't really know what to eat. But I do know pretty confidently, without doing any research, that it probably took people easily 2 to 3 times longer to figure it out than it took monkeys. Because, you know, monkeys probably just like eat it,
and then like their buddy dies, and they're like, oh, that must be a bad one. Don't eat that one again. But you know, people probably eat it, and then like the guy dies, and they're like, well, do you think it was poisonous, or is it because Jason's kind of a pussy? And they're like, you try it, Brad. You try it. And then Brad dies too, and they're like, well, you know, Brad was also kind of a fucking pussy. So Frank, you're up. All life needs water to live, to survive. Right? Water literally falls out of the sky for free. For free. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay anything. What all life needs to live just falls out of the sky. And human beings are like, who's going to fuck up my commute? You know, I'm not a very responsible person, but I want to learn how to, you know, take care of something. And so I asked for help, and the advice that my friends gave me was pretty standard. You know, it's like you start with a houseplant, maybe you work up to a dog, or, you know, then maybe a kid someday, right? A kid. So I started with a houseplant, and I was committed, and it was a little rubber plant, and I gave it fertilizer, and I watered them regularly, like the lady at the store told me. But, you know, inevitably, sorta, he kind of ended up dying. And it wasn't because I didn't try or didn't love him. It was just he talked so much shit that one night I just drew him out to the desert and shot him in the head. Ambulances are so needy. It's woo, 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 woo. Enough already. We get the point. You know, they say, if life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? It's like life doesn't have to give you anything. And then there's this tree over there that grows a scurvy vaccine. You don't have to do anything. It's just giving you lemons. And people are like, this is bullshit, it needs sugar. I've heard where there are instances where gay guys are asked, are you gay? And the response is, only when I'm fucking. And you know, I thought about that in the context of my own sex life. And I mean, I'm definitely heterosexual, but I mean, really not that often.
The thing about shitting your pants is you don't have to be in front of a group of people for it to be embarrassing.
I mean, if you think about it, aren't religions just basically book clubs that were like, oh my god, I loved it, let's do that one again? I'm watching a lot of the news lately, and it seems like it is very, very violent in the world. So I figured I needed to protect myself, so I bought some mace. And I was reading the instructions on how to use the mace, and part of it says that you can hit somebody with this from 12 feet away. But if I'm macing somebody who's 12 feet away from me, wouldn't that make me the aggressor? They say getting old is hard, but I don't know. I'm older today than I was last week, and I haven't done anything. You know the saying that youth is wasted on the young? I mean, nothing could really be more true. When you're a young person, I mean, you just really don't understand how cool it is that when you walk into a room, I mean, any room, you remember what the fuck you're doing there. Hey, look, I get it. No arguments here. If it's too loud, you're too old. But you're also within your rights to file a noise complaint, which I feel like is an oft overlooked aspect of that particular idiom. I knew I was in love with my second wife on our very first date. We had gone out to this really nice restaurant, and the conversation was easy. And then about halfway through, her stomach just makes this god-awful noise. I mean, it just gurgles. And it was, you know, before I could say anything, she looks at me and she says, I'm sorry, but I really have to take this. You can admit it, it bothers you that you'll never really know what's behind you. Alright, so I'm still watching Downton Abbey, and Mrs. Padmore is getting some bad news about private pill pots, I think. She was unsure or unclear about what his status in World War I was, and she thinks, oh, what could be worse than dying? And then head land guy says, or Lord guy tells her that Private Pillpots was shot for cowardice. On February 17th, he was shot for cowardice. This completely devastates Miss Patmore, obviously. But if you think about it, if you know that the penalty for cowardice is death, and you're still a coward, that's pretty brave. I had a first date with a girl that I really liked, and I was pretty excited about it. I wanted to do something nice, so I decided to take her to Red Lobster. And I thought it was going pretty well until the waiter came to take her order, and she ordered the steak, no problem there. And he asked her how she would like it cooked, and she said, preferably not here. I'm going to take a break from the jokes for just a second, just to vent a little bit. I was talking to my girlfriend on the phone the other night. She lives in Hawaii. And there's this wild pig, she says, that comes by her house every night in the middle of the night, and he's just chomping on all the avocados so loud that nobody can get any sleep. And granted, that is pretty annoying. But I live in San Francisco, and I went grocery shopping the other morning, and I saw a grown man's fucking penis, his fucking penis, at the grocery store. Okay? So I'll take a loud chomping pig any day. You know what they don't tell you about learning a new instrument? You spend most of your time listening to some amateur play shitty music. A priest, a rabbi, and a mullah walk into a bar. The bartender takes one look at them and then goes out back and smokes a cigarette because nobody does their fucking job anymore. You know, if your bathroom scale can light up and tell you it has a low battery, it can just tell you your weight. I live in an apartment on a pretty popular street in San Francisco, and there's a lot of foot traffic, and I often look out the window, and I like to see when guys are walking by who are, on a date or in a relationship, they're holding hands or they're having a great time, and I like to open my window and scream down, "You could do better!" and then just watch as they try and figure out which one of them I was talking about. I don't want a lot. I don't want to be a selfish person, but I do want one thing, and that's when I die, for lots and lots of people to be really, really sad about it. The long and short of it is this: if you've got friends that would help you hide a body, and that's important to you, you're all monsters. Whoa, wait, and pay close attention because this is important. Did the doctor say you had a big heart or an enlarged heart? They say life is just a bowl of cherries. The part they don't tell you is if up until now you haven't been eating cherries and you eat a bowl of them, your life, at least in the near to midterm, is going to be about diarrhea. Whatever happened to downtime? You ever try and pluck a hair and end up just curling it? I wrote a play, it's called Hamlet. It's about a small village. I like clothes with a lot of pockets because I like to have the opportunity to lose my keys, but when I do, I still want them to be on me. I never understood why people would say so proudly that they had a memory like an elephant. They were always so happy to pronounce that. And, I never understood why you'd want to have a memory that was nearing extinction. My boss called me into her office and she demanded to know what I've been working on. Told her I couldn't comment on an ongoing investigation. To be or not to be? What's with all the questions? Weight-related mortality. That is to say, dying because you're fat has become such a problem that linguists predict that by as early as 2025, humans could need words fatter than obese. I mean, I think I'm like most people when I say I want to be in a relationship where the love is kind of undeniable, where it's just written all over your face. Like when you're walking down the street, people take one look at you and they think, damn, how the fuck did that guy get her? I'm really bad at taking compliments, actually. I usually panic. Like this one time I was dancing topless at this bar, and this really good-looking guy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey man, I really love your booby tassels." And I just freaked out and I was like, "Oh no, it's just what my nipples look like." The reason dating at middle age is impossible is because you've already grown into the person that people want a divorce from. Remember when there was the fat kid? At 42 years old, there's really only one thing that I know for certain.
And that's that the person who coined the phrase, if you're honest, you can't be wrong, was either not in or about to not be in a committed romantic relationship. If you love someone, set them free. And if they come back to you, they're yours for about 2 months, give or take, until they're probably going to leave again because that's who they are and people don't change.
My girlfriend has made it clear to me that she wants to marry rich so that she can live comfortably without having to work. And that's fine with me insofar as after the wedding, we can still date. As I've gotten older, I've really learned two things. When you're young, you're a moron. When you're old, you're just an uglier moron. You know what the best part about a fear of commitment is? No abandonment issues. I've always had self-esteem issues related to intelligence, but my parents were always very supportive. Whenever I would get down on myself, they would always remind me. They'd be like, you know, you're not stupid. You're just big boned. I bought a white noise machine recently to help me sleep, and it's really awesome. It has like 20 different sounds you can choose from. But I couldn't decide which one I thought would be best, so I usually just leave it on party shuffle. I was 47 years old before I realized you didn't have to eat something just because you were in a kitchen. How does that saying go? The early worm gets eaten by a bird. The world is just becoming so complicated. I mean, I feel bad for the young people. Back in my day, if you ran out of drugs and money at the same time, you didn't need a computer engineering degree to rob the liquor store. Sometimes when I'm watching a movie, I like to substitute a word they're saying for a word that I'm thinking. Like, every time they say maybe the word office, I'll think the word butthole. So they'll be like, step into my office, but I'll think, step into my butthole, right? Or like, like there's like a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and the boyfriend's excited and he just got a promotion at work, so he's bringing his girlfriend to show her. He's like, this is my new butthole. It might not be the biggest butthole or the nicest butthole, but it's a butthole. And she's trying to be reassuring. She's like, yeah, it's certainly an improvement from no butthole, honey. Customer's always right? I disagree. What about lottery tickets and cigarettes? There are two products that the customer could not be more wrong about. I went to both the iTunes and the Google app stores, and I searched, and for the life of me, I could not find an app to help me manage all of the things that I'm currently mad about. I've often heard people ask, if you had a superpower, what would you want it to be? And oftentimes the answer is the gift of flight. A lot of people want to be able to fly. But if flying took as much energy as jogging, you think anybody would do it? Plus, it's dangerous, If you're jogging and you get a cramp, you can just stop. But if you're flying and you get a cramp, you'd be at work on Monday and it'd be like, Diane's late again. You'd be like, oh, you didn't hear? She went for a fly out over the lake, got a cramp, fell out of the sky, and fucking drowned. So the other day, I'm getting ready to take a shower. So I'm getting undressed. And as I take my shirt off, out of the corner of my eye, I notice a dark spot on my shoulder that wasn't there yesterday. And I'm immediately, it's melanoma, right? I got 3 weeks to live. It's melanoma. My body goes cold. I'm not a young man anymore. The probabilities have gone up. I'm at a point in life where that can happen. So I take a couple of deep breaths. I pause, and I'm going to, like an adult, I'm going to assess the situation. So I calm myself down a little bit, and I resolve myself. I'm going to look at it dispassionately, and then I'm going to formulate a plan. I take a deep breath, and I look at the growth. Turns out it's just a fuzzy. It's just a fuzzy.